Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ryan Butler, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Recording Academy, in conversation with Stephanie Allain, producer.
Hello.
Hello. Stephanie, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you and the entire filmmaking team that put this together. It's a story that we needed, so I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you all for coming to see it.
I think it's very fitting that we are having the screening of this film and this conversation on what would be the centennial of James Baldwin's birthday.
Correct, yes.
And so that does not pass me by. Two things that struck me after watching this film is how much I didn't know about Billy Preston and how much amazing music he created. So tell us about the inception of this film, how you got involved, and why it needed to be made.
Okay. Well, again, thank you all so much for coming. This is my first documentary, and I had...
She started off very well.
But of course I didn't do it alone because I had the amazing team at White Horse Pictures who have done, I don't know, 30, 40 amazing docs from the Bee Gees, the Apollo. They have Stax, the Stax show on HBO. If you haven't seen that, you should see it. The Beatles, Bob Dylan, just everybody. Nigel Sinclair and my partner Jeannie Elfant-Festa. And they really taught me the process of making a documentary. And they're all white, to be fair.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool because they reached out because they really wanted to make sure that there was an authentic representation behind the camera. And so Paris Barclay is our director. He's an amazing director, big TV director. He'd done features before, but this is his first doc as well.
Oh, wow.
And Cheo Hadari Coker, who you guys know from Luke Cage,
yes.
He was our writer. And then we went on this journey to really discover Billy Preston. I'm old, I grew up with Billy Preston, and I loved his music, so when they approached me, I said, absolutely. Well, we didn't really know.
Yeah.
And this is what I discovered. Documentaries are journeys. You don't start out with a premise, you discover the premise as you go. And so as we interviewed people and did the research and looked at the archives, this amazing story emerged, both about an amazing prodigy whose contribution to music spans all genres.
Come on.
Nobody has done that. But also he's from the church, he's from the Black church, and his gospel roots are so strong in all of his work. But there was an issue. The issue was that there was hypocrisy in the church, and he really internalized that. He really felt that, and the people that we talked to spoke to that. So we wanted to bring his story, we wanted to celebrate Billy. There's so many stories we have that haven't been told. And for even people who think they know Billy Preston,
absolutely.
We hope the film is a revelation.
Amazing, amazing. I'm definitely going to get to the Black church. But I want to ask you, because it is a journey, and I felt, I watched the film, I'm not going to lie, at least 3 times, maybe 4. And, for me, it was very much like when I got access to Rustin. As a Black, gay executive in the music industry, it was very, very important. These stories are very, very important. This history for me, right? It adds layers. It almost like it retroactively gives me a superpower, right? And that's what I like. I'm all of a sudden like, oh, I didn't know that story, but now I'm stronger than I thought I was. And so after making this film and taking this journey, who would you say that Billy Preston was?
Well, look, I think Suzanne DePass said it well. He's an amazing human being. He was an amazing artist. He was a friend. He was brilliant. I mean, the way that he segued between genres, as I said, has really not been done. But ultimately, he was a guy who wanted love.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted love in his life, and the tragedy is that he never really found it.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the film, Gloria Jones poses a very poignant question. How do we let this boy get away from us? And then it made me ponder a larger question. How many little gay black boys has the church let get away? So how important was it? I know you mentioned the hypocrisy earlier, but how important was it for the black church to be a character in this film?
Well, we interviewed Sandra Crouch, who is a pillar of the Kojic community. She passed away, sadly, a few months ago. But I think she says it best, like, what if church really was what it says it is?
Amen.
Right? Like, why would you preach love and then not accept everybody? And I think that for me, and I think for my producing partners, we found that story to be so compelling. And Paris, who is gay, who is black, who is a musician, who had things happen to him, really felt like this movie could save lives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he signed up. He wanted to say, you're not alone, right?
Correct.
And I think also it was a different time. He said, if he had been 10 years older, he could have gone the way of Billy, right? But there were people there who reached out, who could help him. And I think it's on both fronts, both as a queer black man, but also as an addict.
Yeah.
And both of those things, hopefully, we're a little further along now than we were during Billy's time.
Yeah, well, from my lived experience in the black gay community, those are often, there's dots connecting those two, right? Your experience in the church, feeling exiled, not really being able to reconcile, right, who I feel like I am on the outside versus what's being preached on Sunday, usually leads to, right, I've seen it, and I'm not making this case, right, because it wasn't clear in the film and those dots weren't connected, but from my own lived experience, I often see those two dots being connected.
Yeah.
We're going to take a little turn. Preston was known as the fifth Beatle, but had a prolific solo career. And this documentary does a beautiful job of presenting a greater picture of his individual artistic legacy. So do you hope that this film helps to change the fifth Beatle narrative?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people don't even know about the fifth Beatle, but the people that do know think, oh, that was his biggest contribution. And you can see from the film that that was one of his contributions. I mean, when you really give the sound to the Beatles for their last two albums, which were incredible, and then you do 5 Rolling Stone albums, then you go do Barbra Streisand, and then you do Slide. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like but I think, and I got to interview Ringo Starr for the doc. So fun. It was a Beatle, you guys. And he loved Billy so much. And he said, and Eric Clapton said this, all he had to do was put his hands on the keyboard. That's why it's called That's the Way God Planned It, because he really believed he was gifted by God.
Amen.
He didn't practice, he had very little musical training. And yet, Bill Maxwell also says, which I love, he had anticipation, like he could sit down like he did with Don't Let Me Down, never heard the song. They were writing the song, and he comes up with the best riff. You know what I mean?
Could you even imagine that song without that riff? I literally, as you were doing, like, that's what's playing in my head.
And do people even know? Like, people know the song, but do they know that call and response is Billy? We wanted people to know that, right? We wanted people to understand his contribution.
But just not isolated to the Beatles.
Not isolated, because, you know, I was all up in the club, with going in circles and nothing from nothing, and then of course You Are So Beautiful, which Joe Cocker made famous, but who knew that he wrote it, right? So, and then I love that he did write it for his mother. We did determine that Bobby, who's his bass player, was so moved by that. Because everybody loves their mama.
Yes, absolutely. So the You Are So Beautiful Grammy nomination came in 2000,
I think it was 2007.
No.
No, because he
2000.
died in 2006. Jeannie!
I have it. I have it here in my notes. But I do know that Billy Preston won 2 Grammy Awards in 1974, Album of the Year being one of those Grammy Awards. He was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021 alongside Tina Turner and Ringo Starr, who you got to interview, and Carole King.
Yeah.
But overall, how do you feel his contributions to music have been recognized or perhaps even underappreciated
Look,
in the music
this
industry?
started by a gentleman named Daniel Shaw, who's a writer, a music writer and a philanthropist, and he really wanted to tell the story. So much so that he wrote a book proposal, but nobody wanted to publish it. Okay, so our stories need to get out there. Nobody wanted to publish it. He showed it to somebody who was friend to Gilly, who showed it to Jeannie and Nigel, and they said, let's make the movie. So I feel blessed that I had a little bit in bringing Billy's story to the public, because we're gonna be gone. We have to leave legacy. We have to tell our stories. We have to make our movies, right? Because we want people to remember us and understand the contribution. There is nobody who has the type of artistic legacy, musical legacy that Billy Preston left us. And
Absolutely.
I want people to know that.
Yeah, I think it's important not only that, we tell our stories and that we are remembered, but future facing, right? We can't be what we can't see. And so if these stories are never told, there won't be
It's so
that
true.
little young gay boy who plays the organ or plays some instrument and watches this movie and then understands like
He
that
can do it too.
he can do it too, right? And have support and have a village and not, necessarily have to hide who he is.
Word, yes, thank you.
Yes. Throughout his career, Preston collaborated with some of the biggest names. We've talked about this. But what is your favorite story that you discovered in your journey with this documentary about him and another artist?
Well, can I just say, the little things that we learned about him, like that he loved horses, that he had a horse ranch in Topanga Canyon. I like the specificity of the individual and what they've done. I love the way we found out he loved collaborators. He surrounded himself with amazing people and brought them in, and also literally brought them into the writing process so that they could enjoy what he was getting. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So I think everybody said how generous Billy was and how much they loved him. And that's why you can hear our director, Paris, ask the question, how do you square the things that he's done with how much love you have for him? And I thought that was a really interesting answer, which is we're all human, and however Billy got to where he got, that was part of his journey. But we love that once he went to prison, he came out of prison a changed man. Drugs are hard to kick, so he did slip later, but he spent several years touring with Eric Clapton and just living his best life, so we love that.
Absolutely. I love that too, that you got to know so many different aspects and be very specific about who he was as a person. For me, as a viewer, I was just recently at the 90th anniversary of Apollo, and I know that the 50th anniversary was featured in this movie, and to see Patti LaBelle literally...
Okay, that's showstopper. When we were making it, we're like, oh God. Every time we saw it, we had to see that scene, we had the same reaction. Everybody was just so excited.
There's going to be 2 parts, I think, that excite people. There are young people who aren't going to know that Joe is white. So they're going to be like, oh, that's the voice? Oh, okay. And then to see Patti LaBelle literally, have to even go over to the piano and tell him, that he really,
And catch the Holy Spirit. The dancing and the relating to the church and what he learned there and how he was so happy. It's such an interesting conundrum, really.
How did you and the team approach sharing the sensitivities, even around sexuality and addiction and those? How did the team decide what needed to be included, why it was important for it to be included?
I mean, like I said before, we took our cue we interviewed over 40 people who knew him. The two people who didn't know him were Billy Porter and Corey Henry. Thank you. But everybody else who knew him had such, it's hard to even understand how many times people teared up talking about him, you know, whether it was because they couldn't reach out to him or just because they loved him so much. So the journey was, I forgot the question, sorry.
Just how your team approached including those sensitivities.
Okay, so when we were talking to everybody, it was a natural sort of conversation. Like people would say, oh God, I wish I had said something. And with that, well, what do you mean? Well, you know, Billy liked to, you know, get high and he would get out of control or whatever. So they brought it up. Yeah. Like we weren't leading the horse. We were just asking questions. What was your time like with Billy? How did he approach music? How did he approach love, other people? They offered all of this up. Yeah. And it really felt like they wanted, and you know, you saw at the end, Billy finally said, I'm gay. Yeah. And that was a huge thing for him to admit. But I think they all just wanted to seek out his authenticity for him. You know, that's how it felt. It felt like he didn't have the opportunity to do it in his lifetime. So they just wanted to get the record straight.
Yeah, and that resonated. Like I thought about that, you know, as I was preparing, that I get to sit on this stage and say something that he never got to say on a stage. He did say it to his friends, he did say it to his tribe, but he never got to say on a stage.
And can I also be clear, it's not like he never said he was gay.
Yeah.
He was gay. Yeah. Like he had boyfriends, he
Correct.
hung out, the people that he trusted, he was safe with.
Yeah.
But of course, being a recording artist, that wasn't, you know, you couldn't do that.
We had this conversation backstage, right, that I, you know, don't even really use the term coming out anymore because I feel like that empowers the people that I am coming out to. And then you're in a perpetual coming out. Every time you meet somebody, you have to come out. Every time you get a new friend, you have to come out. Every time you start a new job, you're coming out. And instead I talk about letting people in, right? And I think that he let plenty of people in,
that's
right?
beautiful.
And I think that then empowers me because it is something special to be near my energy, right? And so if I take the control back and the power back, I let you in. And so I saw that there. It wasn't that he was ashamed. It was just that.
Not at all.
Not everybody, he didn't think everybody needed to be let in.
He let people in that he trusted.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think this film is going to open a lot of important conversations.
I really hope so.
About representation and hidden histories and hidden identities in music. How can viewers continue to engage?
I'll tell you. Download Billy Preston. Because we listen to this music so much and there's so much there. So we're just hoping people rediscover him, rediscover his music, and also just have more empathy for people in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, you know, in my position, we have a Recording Academy Honors presented by Black Music Collective. It's an event that happens during Grammy Week, and we have a section in the show called Black Music Is. And I want to, after watching this film, include all of that music that he worked on, do some Billy Preston medley during Grammy Week. Because
that would be amazing.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we launched, you know, Black Music Collective, but last year during Grammy Week, we launched Academy Proud. And so for me, in my position and in my seat, that's my legacy work, right? That I leave the Academy with 2 initiatives that weren't there before.
Beautiful work. Thank you. Hey, you guys, listen to that. Give it up for Ryan. We each have to push further wherever we are, right? This is just what we have to do.
Absolutely.
So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. I think this is my last question. Okay. All right. As we reflect on Billy Preston's life and career, what do you hope audiences, especially young artists, will take away from this film, and then any other last words you have?
Sure. I just hope that people, as I said, rediscover an artist who blazed very hot while he was alive, but maybe people don't really know him now, and also not to be stuck in a genre. Like, I love that he could play with Barbra Streisand and Sly Stone, right? I mean, that's such a beautiful way to express yourself, to just, like what he said, like, I want to be free. Like, I believe God gave me this gift, and why would I not use it in all the ways that I can? So I think that's a lesson for all of us. Like, we each have gifts. Let's make sure we use them. Let's make sure we use them to the fullest so that we can become who we are, but also influence everybody around us to become who they are too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
again,
Tell your friends. Listen to Billy. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you also to the festival.